Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mortgage Broker Builder Show with your host, John Jerkovich.
Welcome to this week's Mortgage Broker Builder Show, where we talk about a variety of things, but we're in the B2B business. We help bankers become better, we help bankers become brokers, and we help brokers become better. And really, our main goal is to help you break out of the mundane and the mediocre and take advantage of your full 1,440 minutes every single day. And this week, we've got a super good guest. I've like kind of outkicked my coverage here. I have a guest that's up here versus me, but super excited about having this guy in here. I wrote a whole little thing out here. We'll try and get to it all, but 30 plus year mortgage vet, author of a best-selling book, Rethink Everything, president and CEO of FinLocker, sits on multiple boards, does a ton of stuff out there for the mortgage industry, first-time home buyers, really just pushing the American dream. Facilitator of the American dream. I have on here, he has a name with 2 vowels or with 4 vowels and 2 consonants. A lot of people like to think of him as the most interesting man in mortgage. Maybe not a lot. That's what I like to call him. So
just one so far.
One. Well, it's becoming a trend. And but super excited to have him here. And Mr. Brian Vieaux, CEO, president of FinLocker. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation over happy hour here.
Yeah, a little bit later we have, right, like if you go through life and you have no obstacles, then, right, you're not actually living. So we're supposed to be on at noon. I send Brian a text, not even through, like our auto things aren't going to him, right? Our FinTech's failing us. And he wasn't getting emails for whatever reason. He's like, I think I got a problem. I'm double booked. But we overcome adversity and move forward. That's what we do. So just wanted to get him on. Got a ton of cool stuff. We actually are rolling out a version of his product, but wanted to talk to him about just a whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to kind of dive in. And I think of, FinTech in the mortgage space, I really think of 3 places, right? Everybody kind of thinks of the factory, the back end, all that big dollar stuff with very little ROI today, where it's helping the factory, it's helping close loans because there's so many. Then you've got that middle FinTech. That's kind of like, if that's the factory, this is the showroom. That's your CRMs, your point of sales, those kind of things. Well, those are kind of sitting around with some dust on them today because there's not enough clients moving through. But Brian, somehow or another, decided about 5 years ago to build a front end FinTech piece of technology for the mortgage space that's really on the front end, helping get clients into the showroom. And I think it's super cool. I saw it for the first time about a year ago and was kind of blown away. And just tell me a little bit, like, how do you go? And you started, how do you go from what were you doing? You were a SVP of TPO for a large bank. How do you end up in the FinTech space, building out an app that's customer facing? Like, how does that all happen? And what is the FinLocker?
Yeah. So I'm going to start by, I love your description of kind of the 3 pieces of technology, the manufacturing and the showroom. And I guess I'm the blow up thing in the front of the store that tries to get people into the store, I suppose. But so, yeah, I spent 30 plus years in the primary mortgage production side of the world. Most recently, as you noted, running the third-party origination business at Flagstar Bank. And basically what happened was I turned 50 and realized, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of my clients who are owner operators, founders of mortgage companies, and some in and around the mortgage vertical around technology and whatnot. I saw a lot of people do really well who, in my opinion, were like average intelligence and average, effort. And so I kind of had this, moment where it's like, you know what? I've always taken, I'll call it the safe route with, corporate America, mostly with financial institutions, and had big jobs and really liked what I did and loved the interaction I had with my team and with lenders in that capacity. But I kind of had that itch of wanting to do something. And so I'd known about FinLocker. I was an early investor in the business. I've known the founders from their days back running a large mortgage cooperative. And so while I wanted to bet on myself I'm not an inventor, and and so I needed a horse to ride on. And so this product, where the product was at the time and what the vision was for the product, I felt was going to line up well with, the cohorts of new, next generation home buyers, if you will. And mind you, that was, 5 years ago thinking about that, and a lot happened in between, guys, right? We had a little pandemic thing that put a lot of things on its ear, including our business and technology and whatnot. But here we are today, and in a market that has all kinds of challenges. We have lenders and loan officers and real estate professionals that have prospective home buyers, people that want to be homeowners, that are being held back for all kinds of reasons: inventory, affordability, and everything in between, which in my mind means you have to carry somebody much longer through that preparation process than you would have, certainly 5 years ago. And a CRM alone may not be enough to keep that person sticky to you through that preparation process. So what we focused on, John, and we're super excited about the rollout of your instance of the product. What we focused on is this concept of, I talk a lot about reach, assist, engage, and nurture. And so if I take each of those just real quickly, reach. So when I think of reach, I think of the tools available in our product that are consumer facing around financial wellness, financial fitness, financial readiness, from credit education to credit preparation and improvement to, personal budgeting and goal setting. And then we have this whole experience around mortgage readiness that, perpetually analyzes a consumer's information and data and kind of gives them a paint by numbers, approach to getting mortgage ready. And so if you're looking to reach up the funnel and engage people much earlier in their journey, you can't do it with a apply now button. I think we all agree on that, right? And so our tool is one of the tools that are out there that I think gives you as a lender and a loan officer another call to action that's not apply now, and it's really, engage now or get ready now. And there's a bunch of tools around that, and you can create all kinds of content in your community, and whether it's virtual or digital, that'll attract people in using those tools. And the call to action is something like download our free XYZ financial fitness app, et cetera. So there's the reach. And then once you get them in there, there's the assist and engage part of the experience, right? The assist is going to help them with tools that are very relevant for where they are in that home buying journey. And then the engage is the app is going to keep pinging that consumer through push notifications and email cadences around how they're progressing, through that journey. All those engagements are coming on behalf of the loan officer, not FinLocker as a product. In this case, it's going to be your branded app, and then a layer deeper down to the individual loan officer that's using it. And then finally, there's that kind of nurture. And then that all just is the wrapper around it, because the way we engineered the app, it's not a one and done transactional app like a point of sale app might be. It's beyond someone, successfully getting ready to apply and then going off and making application and getting closed and funded. And now they're a homeowner. The app still lives on beyond the transaction, because now the consumer can link the property they just acquired and track the value of their property. We update the value every 30 days, link their mortgage that they just closed on. And now they have this dynamic view of equity that is updating along with every payment they make. And then as the value changes, and they can still get the financial value, the financial tool values around credit monitoring, financial wellness, and things like that. So it's an up funnel tool to attract and engage, and it also becomes, a customer for life vehicle as well to stay engaged after the transaction. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that is a mouthful, but I think one of the unique things there is you can take somebody and nurture them from 5th grade to 50 or to 70. They don't ever have to leave your app.
Right.
And in today's world of disinformation, there are people that they have a lack of knowledge. And I think that you can get it wherever you want, but that knowledge is super important. And people buy when they have a certain level of certainty. And I think as you walk through and you go from having 0 stars to 2 stars, 3 stars, now I'm 4 stars and I'm ready to buy, their certainty level just goes up and they feel a lot more comfortable about it. There's a lot less fear. So I think it's really cool. I mean, I was kind of blown away just at what the consumer gets there.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you know this, I think a lot about this space, and I talk a lot about my belief, which is genuine and authentic, that the single best resource for financial preparation as it relates to home ownership is the community-based local loan officer. And you know, and I'll say community-based, and I say that intentionally because community may be physical, but it also could be digital, right? And especially in this environment, this world we're in, there's far more digital engagements probably than there is in real life. But when I think of a community-based local loan officer, to me, I think of an educator first. So a loan officer that starts and believes in being a source of education and tools to support that education. And if we think about first-time home buyers, as it relates to that kind of financial readiness, many of them haven't accrued enough assets in their life yet to have like a private banker or even, you know, a go-to financial planner to some degree. And so as they prepare to buy what's very likely their largest asset in life at the time, and then commit at the same time to what is very likely the largest liability at the time, you would think it would make logical sense that you'd be working with somebody that's financially savvy to prepare for that. But if you don't have a lot of assets, you're not going to get on the radar of a traditional financial planner to do that. And so that's why I believe the loan officer is the single best resource to serve that cohort of consumers at that time in their life. And our tools are meant to extend how that loan officer engages with their prospects and customers.
100%. And I have, and we've talked about this, you and I, in the past, I have a really big belief today that as we see things moving forward, like the name on the back of the jersey is going to be significantly more important than the name on the front as you move forward. And building out a personal brand, I like to call it a portable personal brand, in that it doesn't matter where I work. My clients follow me more so than they follow the company that I work for. And having those tools and becoming that trusted resource wherever that is, it's whether it be TikTok, you know, your church group, kids little league, you want to be positioned as that person, and just having those tools and those resources at your ready to be able to do that only sets you up to win. And we see brokers, there's a lot of movement into people going into that space. And anybody that thinks that these tools, right, like, oh, nobody's going to do it, understand your competition, right? I love when people fight amongst themselves. Our competition is really like, it's the government coming in and doing all loans. It's regulation. It's those kind of things. We're all on the same team. And don't think that if you don't put these things in your business, the banker at Rocket is going to have these tools. Yeah. Like it or not, they're going to be cutting edge. So you can either, you know, pretend you're an ostrich, put your head in the dirt and hope, or you can go out and start embracing the technology. It's not going to, like, what I think about it doesn't matter. So cool that you've created something that is there for the smaller company. And we're super excited. We're going to talk about it at the end, what we're kind of launching for the individual LO. Like at that, we've taken it all the way down to that level to help them build their personal brand. I wanted to kind of go, you talk, and you touched on it a little bit here, but you talk about early journey. And when exactly, like in your estimation, when exactly does that start? And I have something that's super, just a cool little quick story. I recently got, this was a couple of years back, I got an appointment booked from a real estate agent here. It's very prevalent. They own like 3 or 4 offices back when we started one of our brokerages. And I'm sitting down with them and I'm thinking that I did something great in my email. And my early journey for him, I used to, when I worked I was like executive at Rocket Mortgage, what is today, I would go to different colleges and talk. Wow. This kid sat in a class. I presented at Central Michigan University to an entrepreneur class. He took my meeting only because of that.
Wow.
Imagine if every one of those people that I impacted today, you'd download an app and they would be my person forever.
Yeah.
I could talk to fifth graders. A fifth grader can download my app and I can be with them in 30 years. So where does an early journey start for you? Is it at the womb? Like when they get their first phone, like what is early journey?
So when I talk to lenders, loan officers, originators of all sizes and shapes, I typically talk about it in terms of 6, 12, 18, 24 months before they're quote unquote ready to buy. And I think we all agree that home buyers, whether you're a first-time home buyer or a buy up or buying an investment or whatever you're doing, every one of us, we're a consumer at heart. And so we go through processes, right? And in the case of a first-time home buyer, let's just isolate there. I believe they go through not just financial preparation, right? Do I have enough savings? Is my credit good enough? All that stuff that they go through to get prepared, but they go through a period of emotional preparation and readiness because it's life-changing, going from, even going from being a renter to a homeowner. It's just a lot of change. So when I'm when I'm, I guess, presenting my product, demoing it, sadly, I'll say this, sadly, still most of us in the industry are transactional at heart and we can't seem to think beyond 6 months. And I ask them to think at least out to 2 years ahead. But more specifically, I have some clients that are doing financial literacy education in colleges. And they're one of the takeaways from their sessions in these colleges is to download their free, their version of FinLocker, right? So I guess you could argue that our tool could be used, basically you need to have credit in order to get some real value from the tool because we prompt the user to link to their credit. So if someone has a credit score and a credit report, then they're old enough to get some value out of the tool. Most of our experience though is very purpose built. And that purpose today is to get somebody to a place where they can confidently make application for a mortgage. And so typically we find that early journey is, 6 months to maybe 36 months. And so if you're in a physical community and you're engaged in your, in some of your community organizations, churches and whatnot, perhaps conducting and co-conducting education seminars and webinars and in-person events around home buying and financing is a great place to get it out there. We're seeing a great amount of success with customers of ours who are finfluencers, so financial influencers. They're licensed loan officers who have built an audience and a following around their content, and their content is very financial education focused with an emphasis on home ownership. And so they're, one of my clients had 5,800 downloads of their version of the app in the first 10 months of using it, and even closed some loans. They closed 30 loans in the first 10 months. But then now they have this population of 5,000 plus, engaged relationships, I'll call them, because they're actually engaging with this app. And so, I could see that population of 5,000 plus that continues to grow every day churn out, a couple dozen loans every year for these guys consistently. So I don't know if that answers your question, because I think early is it, if I was originating again, I would always have my eye on today's deals because you have to pay the bills, but I would probably have 30% of my effort at any given time going to next year and the year beyond and doing things today that gets people into my pipeline that are next year's buyers or borrowers.
Yeah, that's a great point. When I talk to people that are thinking about making that transition from being a banker to a broker, one of the largest areas that I kind of evaluate, I don't want to set them up to fail by doing it, but one of the biggest areas that I see loan officers missing, they don't have a database. They have nothing. They've got 20 years in the business and they've got, 400 names in their cell phone, but beyond that, they have nothing. And imagine if your 20-year career at Loan Depot, you had 20,000 people in your FinLockers.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You would just be spitting off like you would, I don't even know what you'd do. You'd be pretty happy. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So and you can back it up. I had my son look at it, who's graduating from college right now. He's 21, probably will be. I said, is this useful for you? Like, what do you think? And he's like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that. So even him just looking at it empowered him to say, well, maybe I could buy a house sooner. I didn't even know. So maybe 36 months now becomes 12 once you empower them to know. Tell me, you just gave some stats. I know that you mentioned something in the webinar on Monday about What's a Mortgage, and I follow What's a Mortgage on TikTok.
Yeah.
But can you just quickly, they run a team, they've got a handful of people on there.
Yeah, they've got
some pretty impressive numbers. Is that who you were just referencing?
That's who I was referencing.
Okay.
They're a DBA under West Capital Lending, in Southern California and Orange County. And there's Min Win is kind of the face, if you will, of What's a Mortgage, the brand. And he's one of the pioneers in terms of loan officers who've been out there on social building a following. And if you follow Min, he's an educator first. I can't even tell you that he's selling. He never sells. His content is not about What's a Mortgage, the originator. It's about What's a Mortgage, the brand that is known for educating consumers at scale through social. And so he's built, because he puts out such great content and it's consistent and it's reliable and it's relevant, he's built a following across TikTok, Instagram, I think even YouTube, of well over 500,000 followers. And so a lot of times when he talks about that, or anybody talks about it, the immediate reaction to those of us that don't have 500,000 followers, well, that's never going to be me. The rest of this conversation doesn't matter to me. Okay. But is it fair to say that if you're on Facebook, you probably have at least 500 followers, and they're probably people that that follow you because they know you. They're part of your community, your family, your neighbors, your kids, teammates, parents, whatever. So all of us have a community. If we're on the socials, and most of us are, you have some community already. And if Min and What's a Mortgage are educating at scale, 500,000 people, what's to say that your content couldn't be just as impactful for the 400 or 500 people in your network? And guess what? If those 500 people in your network today are finding value, it probably is going to lead to that 500 becoming 650, becoming 1,000, becoming 2,500. And you don't have to have, my point is, you don't have to have thousands upon thousands of followers to have an impact. If you truly lead from a place of educating first and not selling, right? I see too many loan officers on social that are talking about things that really don't matter, like my product and my turn times and my 10-day C2C. How many consumers even know what a frickin' C2C is? Stop the madness. Talk about things that are important to people and why they're there on social following you. Is the questions that they have around, am I ready? What does it mean if I have a credit, if my credit looks like this? And so one of the best tips that I hear people like Kyle Draper, who I think some people are probably well aware of. If you see the green book over my shoulder, he and I co-authored that. John's got it right there. Kyle talks about the best content on social is to take the 10 most frequent questions you get in your normal life of doing loans with people, and take those questions and turn each question into 10 pieces of content, and answer the question 10 different ways on social, and just be consistent in putting it out there. And even if you only got 2% of your followers every year to do a transaction with you, if you have 500 followers, that's not a bad little incremental piece of business that you're picking up, but you're also going to, as your content gets more relevant and seen, it's going to grow your followers. So I got off track there, John. I hope I answered the question.
No, you did, and it's all good stuff too. And this book too, if you don't have it, it's on Amazon. We'll link back to where you can get it. But mine's got like highlights and stuff in it. Like I actually highlighted things, which I hadn't done that since college. But there's a lot of really good things in here about kind of where a lot of people believe the industry is going. And like Brian said before, you don't have to believe it, or maybe it's not for you. Okay, it's not. Just understand that the industry is going to move on. It's like, oh, exercise doesn't work for me. Okay, great. Have a heart attack at 50. I don't care. Yeah. But exercise and eating well does work to keep you healthy. Yeah. You don't have to do it, but it's proven. So social media, and everybody starts at 1. I go through and look at, some different people that now have 70, 80,000 followers. Yeah. Go back and look at their first YouTube video from 4 years ago. It's terrible. The coloring's bad. They look like they're in a shaded box, but everybody starts at 0. And right, everybody just wants to go really fast. And then also, if you're sitting out there and thinking, I don't have that much, how much would you pay to get in front of, right? People would pay hundreds of dollars to do a lunch and learn with 500 people.
Yeah.
Like you'd rent out a thing at Oakland University and you'd do this and yet you can get that every single day, right? Relatively easy. And we've got a bunch of playbooks too. And I don't want to, at our website of like, how do you become a social expert, a local authority? How do you go out and use these different things to get in front of people? Marketing is one of the biggest misses in our industry right now.
So John, let me just add to that. Because when we were, building out our product, in our wildest dreams, as we were, designing and developing, we did not have a mind's eye on our product being what I would call a lead magnet at the top of the funnel, like in a social media context, right? When we were designing and developing, it was all around consumers that a loan officer, a lender, and a broker were already engaged with and, just needed more help. But we almost stumbled into this other use case. And the reality of it is people, if we think about the financial tools that are available to all of us as consumers, right? Things like Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, what was Mint.com, Rocket Money, Zillow, I'll call a financial tool to some degree, NerdWallet. Those are all apps that people use at scale. There's millions of people using those apps, right? And so what we started to really uncover was there's tools that people need and are using at scale. Now, all of those brands I just named have some commonality, and for the most part, they're a lead capture tool that then monetizes the consumer by then matching or selling that lead to a financial institution, right? And so if I put my originator shoes on, if I was originating today and I had an eye on being in this business for the next 5 to 10 years, I wouldn't be viewing the broker down the street, the IMB across the county, or the national big box retail lender as my competition. I would be looking at where are consumers going at scale and what are they doing? And they're going to these financial apps. And so I would be thinking about how do I get them in my own ecosystem? And that's really, kind of what we've engineered is this combination of those, individual tools that you would get from those different apps. But the way we've packaged it now, it's an all-in-one or a super app. You can kind of call it whatever you want, but we get the consumer in there and they're in your ecosystem. There's no ads in front of them. They're not being sold to the highest bidder. It's a sandbox for the consumer, and it's in that, in the originator's ecosystem. So it's kind of a closed environment that is a safe place for consumers to kind of play with their data and understand where they stand with respect to being ready for financing. And then they're not going to get blown up and inundated with, ridiculous offers. And then to me, this is where it's super important. The connection there is between them and the loan officer that they trusted that got them to download the app to begin with. So it just, again, further scales the ability for loan officers to help more people bringing a digital solution to the table in addition to what they do with their expertise.
Yeah, it is really, like inside of the app, having the ability to view properties without being attacked with the preferred agent. And here's your lender. And like that in and of itself is super powerful. Or the ability to have your client see what their credit score is without it triggering a credit trigger and getting sold to 1,000 people. Having your potential future client being able to run some what if scenarios and do some different things inside of an ecosystem that's safe, that their stuff is not going to be sold to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And essentially the whole world sells data. I mean, we're in a data selling world. And I like to think of social media, and people often want to go from I post and they want a loan. And I say that there's 6 L's that you go through. L number 1 is you feel like a loser. Then you've got this likes, learning. So you've got the likes and learning phase, and hopefully there's some laughs in there. Those are the middle 3. If you do all of those things, you can hopefully get them to a lead, name, phone number, email. And that's through some type of lead capture, some type of lead magnet. Hey, download my FinLocker app. I now get that basic stuff. And then that leads to a loan. And too many people say it doesn't work because they want to post today and get an immediate loan. And you've got all those L's in between there that you have to hit on in order to get, a loan doesn't just show up. You got to get your poop in a group first.
Yeah. It's, I go back to when we started talking, it's like, doing a post and then putting an apply now call to action is pretty arrogant, frankly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of assumptions you just made as soon as you put your call to action as apply now, right? And so, the tool like FinLocker gives you something else. You can actually give them something tangible of value. And to your point, the trade-off is when they download the app and create an account, at a minimum, you now know first name, last name, email address, and their phone number. And you also know their intentions around home ownership, because we asked, that's a question in the setup. And so and by the way, if they download the app and they answer the question that I'm ready now, we're going to tell you right in real time, we're going to tell you, hey, John just downloaded your app and indicated that he's ready to buy now. Now it's appropriate to reach out to John with the apply now call to action, right?
Yeah, it's so many things. I think we've identified like 16 or 18 really good lead magnets. Like, got questions about your credit score? Download the app and find out.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's so many great ones that becomes your call to action, your tagline at the end. It's not do a loan with me today. It's, hey, why don't you check out this thing? Let me give you something. Super cool. And I also see too, is just another neat thing. If you have this app and it like gets some traction in your area, realtors have this FOMO, right? They have this fear of missing out. What if the other person in the office, like they're downloading this app and it's 6 months later and purchases are coming out and the current loan officer they are working with doesn't have it? Like, it's kind of like the guy that doesn't have it's like the 8th grader without a cell phone. Like, he's kind of a loser. So just another caveat there. Awesome. So I have some questions for you. You guys work with all kinds of, right? You work with IMBs, credit unions, everybody. What would be, so if we start rolling this app out and you've launched tons of companies, and I'm sure that it's super frustrating on your end. You guys have a great product. You hand it off to a marketing person inside of this company, and I'm sure that the adoption rates are probably not where you would like them to be, but they're paying you for every seat, whatever it is. What are the big pitfalls that you see? And a lot of, right, I understand, I've been inside of the big companies, but what are the biggest pitfalls that you see on the implementation and rollout at, when it goes to a company of 200 people or whatever?
Yeah. So I know our audience is probably typically loan officers. So, I'm not going to say anything that is meant to be offensive or disparaging. It's just the reality is absent a really well thought out process and some automation, most loan officers just aren't going to take the time to manually build, the process of inviting somebody to download this app into their process. And so here's how I kind of bring this to life. we've already talked about the apply now. So first thing I'll tell you is if somebody comes into your funnel, you're a loan officer, someone comes into your funnel, however they got there, and they know they're ready, and based on your 5-minute conversation, and most really good loan officers in 5 minutes know if somebody's ready, right, and qualified, frankly. And so if in that first 5-minute conversation, you know they're ready, they've indicated the timing is now, and you know based on your conversation that financially they're ready, don't send them down the FinLocker path. That's where they should go to your apply now, get into your mortgage manufacturing process, and get to that closing as fast as possible. So if we can agree for a moment that in today's world, if 10 people come to the storefront, maybe 6 are in that bucket, and that might be a little bit of a stretch, but let's just say it's 6 out of 10 that are ready, send them down, apply now. But too often what happens with those other 4 is, let's just say someone's just not quite there from a credit perspective. And so what do we do as a loan officer? We'll say, hey, go download Credit Karma, and when your score is improved, come back in and we'll get you back on track. Or, go work on your credit and come back and then we'll get you back on track. I mean, if you're sending them to Credit Karma, you might as well, pick a lender and just send them there right now. And so that's one thing we do. The other thing we do, most of us that are proficient and good, will at least have some kind of a nurture campaign in our CRM. And I don't think you should stop doing that. But let's be real. Are they reading your emails? And are you giving them good enough content in those emails to get them to read them? And is that enough to keep them in your ecosystem when they do fix whatever was holding them back and to get ready, or they coming back to you? And so what we really kind of drill and try to drill at the manual level is, if you're already sending people to your apply now, that's part of your process. We're just telling you to take those people, that the 3 or 4 or 5 out of 10 that aren't ready, and text them this link to download this app, email them this link to download this app, put them in a campaign in your CRM that's going to send them, 6 emails over the next 8 weeks with the value prop of this app and how it's going to help them, get ready, get to a place of readiness. Send them to your landing page that you built that highlights the features of this app. And so it's doing some of those marketing things, John, that get that consumer to do that next thing that you wanted to do. In this case, download the app. Once they download the app and create the account, we're going to do the heavy lifting. The app's going to do the heavy lifting from there. And we put them on a communication cadence based on the persona of the user, what they told us, where they are in their journey, right? So that's probably the biggest frustration is there's a lot of excitement when we have these demos and conversations, and even, to the point when they're signing the contract and agree to the economics, and then life happens, business happens, and unless they get going right away, that's frankly why I'm really excited about our relationship. Is you're solving for a pain point that our technology has in how you're approaching coaching and educating in the playbooks that you're creating around, the product itself.
Well, and hopefully our hope is that, right, of 10 loan officers at any company, you roll something out, the CEO or whoever signing that contract has the greatest intentions, but it's like anything. 2 or 3 aren't going to execute on anything, right? They're just there because they're too lazy to do anything else. You've got this middle point that's content being kind of mediocre. And if the company does it for them, they might do it. And then you've got 2 that are go-getters, and they do most of the business anyways, and they'll take the time to do it. Our belief is, like I said in the beginning, I'm animately opposed to being average. It's one of my greatest fears, right? Is to be average and be okay with it in any area of my life. So I'm trying to have people not be mediocre and go above and beyond. And, we can do a lot. We can get somebody all the way to, 211 degrees, but I can't make it boil without them putting a little bit of effort in. And so, we want to try and do as much of that for them. And we believe that the people that'll be coming to us, they're already better than average. They're looking at, how do I take it to that next level? So super excited about that. And it's like anything, execution just across the board. It's the hard part. It's easy to sign a contract, hard to execute on. Let's see what else I got here. If, and you had mentioned this before, but if you were starting a mortgage company today, let's say, right, like you had to go out, FinLocker, right? Like, I don't know, you had some massive exit. You're like really wealthy. Now you lose it all and you have to, like, Brian, you have to start a mortgage company. What would be your three like big things that you would focus on?
I've been talking about it. So my number one would be becoming a recognized, trusted resource in my community. And I'll again, air quote community, physical and or digital, but become a trusted resource of financial education and preparation as it relates to home ownership, not just up to home ownership, but throughout the entire home ownership cycle. So I would be focused on being an educator first, a salesperson second. So that's where I would be from a consumer perspective. And I probably, if I was starting a company and my plan was to grow, I would take the same approach with how I would recruit and attract and lead a team by being an educator, / coach first. The second thing is I would understand tomorrow's cohort to the degree possible, because presumably I'm not starting a business to be in business for 1 year or even 3 years. I'm starting a business to make a living for the rest of my earnings capability in my life, right? And hopefully it's more than 5 years. And so if I'm going to do that and be successful beyond 5 years, I need to understand today what's going to be important for the next generation of home buyers and borrowers. And so technology is going to be a big player in that. Do I have the right tools and technology tools to serve not just today's borrower, but trying to skate where the puck is going, not where it is, right? And then third, I think, is a little bit of table stakes. But depending on, by the way, if I was going to start a mortgage company today, I would start it as an independent mortgage broker. I think there's a lot of from starting a business, I think there's the barrier of entry has been reduced significantly, over the years, and some of the big players in the space, we all know the brands, I'm not going to name them here, have done a great job of building technology that serves the broker and the end consumer. And by virtue of those big brands doing that, they've made others raise their game as well. And so I think, it's never been a better time from an availability perspective of tools and loan programs to be a mortgage broker. And again, if I was starting a business, I would be doing that because I would also be having an eye on what's the least risky proposition for me as a business owner. And that model today could change, but today is the best model. So in that regard, I would make sure I have the right key lender partners and that have the best products for consumers. And so I think if you go into if I was going to start a business, I would, the single person I'm trying to serve is the end consumer. And if that's always my mindset, then those top three things that I described are going to be, right in alignment with how best to serve that consumer.
Yeah. And I'm in agreement. I mean, part of the reason I started the whole company I did of helping bankers become brokers is, I see a trend, and I think it could be, back to almost 50% of all businesses here or loans transact through the broker channel. Whether that comes to be or not, I'm not sure, but I do see a trend where that's going. And the competition, like Rocket and United Wholesale, have more in common and have done more good for the broker industry. Like they fight back and forth, but it's all pushing forward that whole entire thing.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Couple of just kind of like offbeat questions here. Is there something that that 5 years ago, either you believed it one way or another and you were like kind of completely wrong, Like the industry went a completely different way. It was like a head fake to you. You didn't see it coming. I know you talked about the lead magnet thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there anything else out there that you would have never thought we'd be in this place?
That's it's really a great question. I guess if I think about the confluence of lack of inventory, and now we can officially call the rates historically high, right? That was not imaginable to me 5 years ago. Those two things coming together, right? Because typically you would have one or the other, not both. And so I think what the market we're in at this moment in time probably was about to happen, and then the pandemic happened, and the government, had to do what it had to do, which, saved lenders and originators at that time from probably what they're going through right now. But I think that's probably, to me, it's probably the confluence of inventory and affordability that I didn't think we'd see it to the degree we're seeing it right now.
Yeah, I think that there's that. I mean, to me, one big takeaway is if I was to go back 5 years ago and you saw the trends of where tech was going, I would have thought that AI was writing loans today. And it's completely the opposite. The actual individual LO, I mean, I know loan officers that are back taking handwritten applications.
Yeah.
So they don't miss a detail about the client's 401k. So it's went back to, pen and paper, taking applications versus pushing out a link for somebody to fill it out. And then the education piece. So the art of sales has actually come back, and the people that are excelling today, they never forgot how to sell. And there's a whole group of the industry. I don't care if you did $250 million of production in 2020. If you can't write and do, half of that today, maybe it was a false positive and you weren't really as good as you thought you were. And so that's like a big takeaway on my part. Just, I would have thought tech would have writing loans today a lot more than it is. But who knows? Nobody asked me. And my opinion, and $5 will get you a coffee in most places. So I wanted to talk about the book just really quickly, which I think is super cool. We touched on it a little bit, but they say, right, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with. And I watched that process kind of unfold. I'm in the little ecosystem on LinkedIn. And I saw it wasn't the 5 people. It was like the net average of all those people's like intelligence went up, like people got smarter as a result of that. And you spearheaded that, right? Like you made a massive impact, you and Kyle with that. So it was really cool to watch. Is there something that sticks out? Like, was there an aha moment or something in that process to you that was like, hey, we're really on to something big here? Or like was there I watched it from the outside, so there had to have been, but
yeah, I would say there was, and there still is every day. Like literally every day I'm watching. I just came right before you and I went live. I came from a call with some friends. They're local. They're a prospective client, and randomly, on the screen behind one of the people on the call was the green book sitting there. It's just like, what? So I'll start with how this whole thing came together. You can see there's a purple book over one of my shoulders. There we go. The purple book is book 1 in this series, and that was written by Kyle Draper. Kyle wrote it a little bit over a year ago, and it's called Rethink Everything You Know About Social Media. It's a 80-page, easy read. Somebody sent it to me randomly last August, and somebody I didn't know, by the way. And on the cover of the book, there was a sticker with a QR code. I scan the QR code, video pops up. It's this guy, Scott Payne. And Scott basically says, hey, man, I like what you're doing on LinkedIn. Your content's great. I thought you'd like this book. It's got some good tips. Let me know what you think. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Don't know who Scott is. Of course, went to LinkedIn, connect with Scott right away. And so I started reading Kyle's book. I read it a couple times, like over the course of a weekend. And I'm like, man, this is like really good stuff. And it's Kyle just sharing his perspective on the power of video, the power of social media. And it was so impactful to me. I took a 14-day period. And every day I took a snapshot of one of the pages from his book, posted it on LinkedIn, and then wrote some of my thoughts, comments. And those posts got a lot of engagement. They created a couple DMs. One of the DMs came from Kyle Draper, and it started out with, "Hey man, I don't know who you are, but," and I'm like, "Oh, what did I do?"
Right.
And he's like, "But you're blowing up my social. I just want to thank you. Do you have 10 minutes for a call?" So we jump on a call Saturday morning, planning to, just do a discovery 10-minute conversation. And we talked for 2 hours. And on that call, I learned that, Kyle had this thought and belief that this concept of Rethink Everything is more than just this one book. He had this vision of this becoming a series of, and so over the next 10 days, I had that in the back of my head. And, this is last summer. We're right in the middle of this tumultuous industry. And I'm talking to lenders and loan officers and brokers every day, and it's tough. And in my mind, I kind of had this idea. I'm like, rethink everything you know about serving the next generation home buyer. That was like the working title. But then I realized I don't have enough expertise, intelligence, and I'm not a good writer. Nobody would read if I wrote that book. But man, I know some people that could really share their expertise and intelligence. I wonder if, so I pinged Kyle. I'm like, dude, I think I have the next book in the series. And he's like, oh my God, I love that. And then he's like, I have 3 people that I could think of that would be awesome. So between the 2 of us, in 24 hours, we reached out and had 10 people that said, yeah, I'm in. Whatever you're doing, I'm in. And we were like, okay, 10 to 15 chapters, that's perfect. Fast forward, we published in March, 37 chapters, 37, unique individuals who are experts in their own right. Some who are early experts, our mutual friend, Mike, and others who are, borderline legendary experts in their field. And they crushed it. Like, these people were, a lot of times if you ask someone to write something like this, they're not going to give you the good stuff. They're saving the good stuff for behind the paywall, so to speak, right?
Right.
These people spilled it. And then the other thing in the book that's I think is one of the most unique things is this concept of QR codes. Each chapter has a QR code. So not only did they, write 1,200 or 1,500 words and really spill it, but then you scan that QR code and there's another 2 to 5 minute conversation they're having with you that goes a layer deeper. So what's really blown me away, John, is that this thing has become more than just, publishing a book and putting it on Amazon. It's becoming a community of collaborators, a community of people that now have made relationships that they didn't have otherwise because they were one of 37 in the book. One of the guys, again, we both know him really well, told me the other day that by being part of this, he's actually got business from collaborating
Sure.
other people that were in the book, and his exposure is grown. So I don't know where this thing is going to go. I have this vision in my mind that we really will build this community around it, and the community is not going to be just bankers or brokers. It's going to be a community of people that are consumer focused, consumer first, and who truly, love our industry and are committed to it for a long time. So stay tuned, because there's some other stuff that's going to come out of this thing, I'm sure.
I like I said, super cool to watch from the back end. I am also, right, you said you turned 50 when you did this, right? I'm also closer to 100 than 0. And there's some weird thing that happens there when you start to actually enjoy seeing people get ahead, right? There's a certain point where you're like, oh, they didn't deserve that. Like, why not me? And then the older you get, you're like, that's awesome to see those guys doing that. And that's so cool. So I'm kind of at that point now that I can really appreciate a little bit of FOMO, right? When I saw all the things, I'm like, I wish I could be in there. So, right. You just keep going. There's round 2.
V2, baby. V2. Stay tuned.
Super cool. And I just wanted to talk. I want to be conscious of time. We try to do this for 1 hour, but what we've got coming out. So we've got an app coming out on the a FinLocker app, but we're calling it our Fin Toolbox, right? We're the mortgage broker builders.
Love
And
that.
we're actually rolling it out with a system. So we're going to have the FinLocker app. We've got a course called Buy a Home U. That's like a 40, it's a massive course. Every single step, PDF format, white labeled for the bankers that sign up for it. They can send it out. Comes with a bunch of lead magnets, social media posts, all kinds of stuff. In addition to that, there's a CRM that we're running with it. So as people go in and fill out your stuff, everybody that's coming into our system is going to get their own CRM. It's not like a massive CRM, but it's going to have lead capture and some different things. And really our goal here with this, and we're going to launch it next week, Thursday, we're going to put together a webinar and kind of go bigger. Our app's on the web store today on both of them. That whole process was, I don't even want to get into that, was harder than I thought, but I learned a lot.
But you now have an app in the App Store, dude.
I have an app in the App Store and on Google. So both of them. I have a DUNS number. I have all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And right, I've got to meet your son, your team. You guys have been great to work with. So it was super cool, but we're launching that this week at some point, like Thursday of next week, but we're going to give people an app. This is for an individual loan officer. I don't care where you work. You're going to control your data and you can move that around with your portable personal brand. And even if you land at a company that also has it, I'm sure we can, right? There's all kinds of things that can happen. You might want to keep yours though, because I know a lot of people that had their database, their company went under for whatever reason, and they were left out in the cold. So just super cool. But
I love it.
In Toolbox, Buy a Home U, your own little CRM, and super excited to just see where this goes. And give you guys an outlet too, as you have an individual loan officer come through that wants the product. They're probably not going to do what I just did for the last 8 weeks to get it. And
I got a handful ready to send your way.
So super excited and just, I'm fired up about what it is and what you guys are building there and being able to help that next gen loan officer with the next gen clients. So I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Thank you for trusting us and partnering with us. We're really excited about it.
Well, hey, I appreciate your time here today. And anybody's got questions, concerns, you can hit me up. Brian, what's the best place for people to find you? I'm assuming probably LinkedIn, but.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm maxed out on connections. So if I really like you, I'll have to kick somebody out to let you in, but you can follow me there, DM me there. First name dot last name, brian.vieaux@finlocker.com is my email. Of course, finlocker.com is our website. You can even go to finlocker.com, check out a short demo. If you want to see the kind of full blown, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, one of my featured posts is the 45-minute live demo we did just this past week on LinkedIn. So you could check out the whole thing there. But yeah, or go right to JJ. JJ will put you in contact with me. You could find me. I'm not hiding.
Yeah, we'll link back to the demo from this week, all of Brian's social media stuff. It'll all be up on our website. It'll just take a couple of days, but I truly appreciate it. You, all your team, the things that you do, you're making a positive impact in our industry and helping people build portable personal brands. So I thank you.
Thank you, John.